Hey everybody, I'm Adam, and this is Think Club. Hey everybody, it's your friend Adam, artist, author, filmmaker, 22 years in the Hollywood filmmaking trenches, founder of the largest studio-level writers lab in Los Angeles. I had a run-in on Discord. I went on there, I'm bored, and looking for someone to argue with on the internet, and I bumped into everyone's favorite Christian apologist, possibly troll, who knows, Darth Dawkins. Now, I pulled out a clip here because Darth Dawkins has a storied past with the skeptic/atheist community on YouTube. So I just wanted to set up this exchange that I had with him. I'm going to link to it in the description below if you don't want to listen to the entire exchange. It is a little boring, I'm going to be honest with you. It's very long, and Dawkins does 90% of the talking. And Dawkins is well known for not answering questions. There are these videos online of Dawkins driving people insane. He's one of these emotional vampires. And I mean, I kind of despise the guy just in the fact that he's not a Christian. He claims to be a Christian, but really just likes arguing the point of Christianity on the internet. But he doesn't come across as humble or accepting of people or forgiving or kind. All of the things that you'd think were embodied in Christianity or Christ, is none of those things come across in Darth Dawkins at all. He's a person on the internet trying to prove people wrong. So I'm somewhat familiar with his arguments. I have arguments against him. I've written them out here, so I'm going to go through those as I read a couple of the points. I feel like I did make some headway because he was kind of forced to admit the evolutionary model that I'm working with on religion, which I think is kind of a win. I don't think he realizes he did it, and I don't think any of his followers realize he did it, but that's why I'm doing this video. I'm going to point it out. So here's a little intro of Darth Dawkins so you can see a little bit of his background.
Names to you.
How come every time I ask you a question, you always answer it with a fucking question? Answering my questions with a question is not answering my fucking question. Are you a scholar?
Okay, I have made no claims to being a scholar.
See. Okay, the guy yelling is not Darth Dawkins. The guy not answering questions is Darth Dawkins. I just picked this clip because it's a little. He is a total emotional vampire. He gets under people's skin. People in the Discord were thinking he was getting under my skin, but not really.
That's, again, you're not answering my question. It's a yes or it's a fucking no. Okay. Are you a scholar?
Okay.
Yes or no? Yes or no? It's just like your little precept shit where you want to get an A and B answer. You got A and B, motherfucker. Yes for A, B for no. Yes or no?
Asked and answered. Sorry.
Are you a scholar?
Are you going to
asked and answered?
Okay. Now, it's my policy when I'm conversing with people that I don't give personal information.
Well, it's my policy that people can't ask me questions if I can't ask them questions. That's my policy. My policy is we play both sides of the fucking court. I told you, this ain't football. Right. You ain't the star quarterback. This is basketball. We playing both sides of the court. All right? Yeah. You got to play some fucking defense. You got to answer some of my motherfucking questions if you want me to answer yours. It don't work like that. All right? No, you didn't answer.
No, I did. I did actually get one answer out of Darth. It took me an hour and a half to get an answer out of Darth. Darth Dawkins is this guy's name. So I'm going to play that for you. I have it here. Darth is a presuppositionalist Christian, and I guess this is an argument that basically, without God, reality wouldn't exist. I don't know. Obviously, you guys know I'm not a huge philosophy guy, but I'm interested in it from the social psychology, the evolutionary psychology perspective. I'm curious why Darth wants to make this argument so badly, because this is really the only argument that he ever makes. His ultimate goal is to say that you have to believe this thing, otherwise your worldview is logically incoherent. And I was making the argument basically that logic and worldviews are completely different things. You're conflating the two. So I'll just read out what I wrote here. Darth argues that the Christian worldview is logically consistent. Never mind that it isn't. But the purpose of this rhetorical trick is to argue that one worldview is logically consistent and the other worldviews are logically inconsistent. That seems to be the argument that he continually wants to make. This is an appeal to emotion argument, since evolutionarily, we want more than anything to be consistent. And I cite Cialdini, 1984. That's the book that I got this from. The book is Influence He cites the studies in that book. So part of the evolutionary purpose of a worldview is to aid us in seeking reliable, aka consistent cooperation partners. Cialdini cites many of the other studies where they go into the consistency principle. I also looked up an article on commitment and consistency bias. I'll link to that too in the description below, just simply because it's interesting. So we hate more than anything as individuals to be inconsistent. Darth intuitively understands this, but consistency bias can be a devastating survival strategy, since when the environment inevitably changes, the strategy that once works can be useless in the new environment. And this is what I'm talking about with consistency bias. This is why consistency bias is actually bad. This article is from an investing website. You want to be consistent. You set up a strategy that you think is going to work, and we want so badly to be consistent that we will often do things that are bad for us strategically, reproductively, investment wise. So this is actually bad in the context of a worldview. And worldviews are different than logical consistency. Logic is a tool. So, and I say that here, worldviews are not logic. Worldviews are a survival and reproductive strategy. And that's what they are. Our understanding of the world, our beliefs, our experience with our environment, our testing of the environment that creates a worldview that will aid us in survival and reproduction. That's the whole purpose of a worldview. So I say I would argue most worldviews are logically incoherent. Christianity, specifically in the case of miracles, which break the laws of physics, obviously. If the laws of physics and the laws of biology say that people can't live forever, this is an impossibility. Jesus Christ raising from the dead breaks the laws of physics, breaks the laws of biology, and it's a logically incoherent worldview to think that. But that's actually an asset in a worldview, not in the rules of logic, not in the context of logic. These logical inconsistencies are a problem in the realm of logic and reason, but in the realm of worldviews and survival strategies, they are an asset, since they motivate organisms to survive and reproduce in situations where the factual truth that life is ultimately pointless and meaningless will often stifle our survival instincts. Yes. So this is why it's good to have a worldview where, a little touch of miracles can happen. Having God as your co-pilot is actually a very good for survival and reproduction, not very good for logic and reasoning. So I separate the two, and I kept trying to make that argument over and over again to Darth. Obviously, you can go listen to the full clip, but Darth isn't biting. Darth doesn't want to go down this avenue. He doesn't want to have a dialectic. He doesn't want to have a discussion, a conversation. He wants to preach on the internet. He wants to preach. He's come up with this argument that everyone else is logically incoherent, and only he is logically coherent. But the people who fall for this argument are falling for commitment and consistency bias. So I didn't fall for this trap. I, for the sake of argument, embraced it head on. For the sake of argument, I said, Darth, just for the sake of argument here, let's just say my worldview is logically inconsistent, incoherent, as you say. Where do we go from here? Crickets. Can I just skip to the chase and agree with you? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that my worldview is logically incoherent. Okay.
No, what I'm saying to you is, you cannot even invoke any fact if you have prior told me that you do not accept that anything is ultimate. If nothing is ultimate, then nothing non-ultimate can exist.
That's fine. We'll ignore the fact that I am making words that you're understanding.
Okay.
And for the sake of argument, we will say
understand? Do you now understand that it is incoherent to say I do not accept that anything is ultimate?
For the sake of argument, I'm granting you that my worldview is logically incoherent. Okay, your worldview is logically coherent. Mine is logically incoherent. Okay, that's the argument that you want to make. Correct?
What I'm saying is the Christian worldview.
Notice he says, yeah, that's the argument I want to make. So I have one more clip I want to play here.
I thought you wanted to ask me questions, but go ahead with whatever you want to say.
I did want to ask you the difference, like what is a worldview for? What is the purpose of a worldview? That's the question that you're not answering.
The purpose of a worldview is it provides the background information so that we can have intelligibility for facts and the relationship between facts.
Yeah, I agree. But what is the purpose of that intelligibility of those facts?
Without a worldview, you cannot have intelligibility for facts.
That argument is circular. I think you realize that.
No, it's not circular at all. I'm stipulating that the ultimacy of reality, meaning a worldview, is the precondition for the intelligibility of dependent facts. That's not circular.
Of that worldview.
That's not what I just said to you is not circular in the least.
You need a worldview to understand the world.
Listen to me. Correct? If I say to you that X is the necessary precondition of Y,
you're making it way more complicated than it needs to be.
Okay.
You need a worldview to understand the world. Are we in agreement?
That's right.
So I get agreement out of him, is the purpose of understanding the world?
Understanding what the framework of reality is will then provide us with understanding for particulars or facts.
That's for what?
Now, did you want to ask me some questions?
I can tell Darth really hasn't thought this through much. You can see he's like, I don't know. I think it's a win. Seriously. People can't get answers out of this guy. His avatar is Darth Dawkins, as in Richard Dawkins. So he's an anti-evolutionist. But here he kind of admits to the evolutionary argument. My argument is worldviews are necessary for survival and reproduction. That's the whole purpose of worldviews.
Because you made a statement that there's no... Okay, what's the...
By worldview, I mean belief system. Yeah, we all have one. There's an argument to be made that different political affiliations have different worldviews. That's why they have different ideas for how to solve problems, because they're taking in different facts and they're saying, you can't solve this problem this way because this becomes a problem. Other worldviews ignore those problems. They have a completely different worldview. One of the contrasting worldview particulars is that whether or not you believe people are basically good or people are basically bad is a worldview. Some people think people are basically good. Some people think people are basically bad. So whether or not you think that will color how you act in the world for survival and reproduction.
The question I haven't answered. What's the question, Adam?
What is the purpose of a worldview? What is the purpose of understanding the world? What is the purpose?
Well, first of all, the purpose, the role of a worldview is the necessary ingredient or prerequisite for human intelligibility.
And what is the purpose of human intelligibility?
To communicate.
Well, what is the purpose of communication?
So that we can understand each other.
And what is the purpose of understanding each other?
Interacting with each other.
Correct. What is the purpose of interacting with each other? We form communities. What is the purpose?
The purpose of that is so that we will love God and love our fellow man.
Okay. Is sustainably over time?
That's God's plan.
Right.
Are you done with your questions?
I think we're in agreement. Okay. So I didn't press him on it because, this guy has a habit, and actually he kicks me out of the server because I get tired of him not answering questions. But this went right by everyone there. But he's affirming the evolutionary argument, sustainable over time. This is the purpose of worldviews, and this is the height stuff that I'm always talking about. We have different communities that create different ideas that are sacred within that community. That idea binds this community together, and that binding of the community together serves an evolutionary purpose. The larger a community is, you could argue that the better survival and reproductive advantages that community will have in the world. So Darth believes, well, obviously in his worldview, the point of the community is to serve God. That is the binding agent for his community. But the fact that it's sustainable over time, we all know as evolutionists, is the point of the community. That this community has certain rules that favor stability. This is why so many of the religions focus on things like sex taboos and stuff like that, because they want stable family units that will create survival and reproductive advantages over time. That's the purpose. That's what's going on with these religions. And I think it's interesting to look at it from this very tangible, very realistic perspective, because a lot of the debate between the atheist and the religionists is over whether or not these religions are true. And they don't need to be true to serve this purpose. It's kind of strange. The universe seems to have a bit of irony in it, that these religions, these moral systems, basically facilitate rules that very much abide by the rules of survival and reproduction. So I'll go ahead and leave it there. I have a piece of artwork in the background that was done by Steph, Caffeinated Fiend. She is in the comments. Here's the entire piece. This is for a graphic novel comic book that we are both working on that we're going to be crowdfunding soon. So it's a cool piece. I like it a lot. I really like the colors. You can let me know in the comments below what you think. The name of the comic is Drugs, Love, and Armageddon. And that's exactly what it's about. Drugs, Love, and Armageddon. So I'll go ahead and leave it there. And we will see you in the next video.